Be very cautious with this. Your medical license is your own, and do not allow other nefarious people to use it. I had an important thing happen over the last 2 weeks with a client that was a medical director of a facility. Now, this particular doctor have had licenses in 40 states, and basically what has happened is that nurse practitioner he was overseeing in regards to the GLP-1s, trying to get their patients covered for the GLP-1s underneath their health insurance plans, had written in their charts that every one of them was a diabetic. What subsequently happened is that state board came in, did an investigation after complaints from the health insurance companies in regards to this, and also from Medicare. And guess what happened? Nurse lost her license. In the process, this particular guy who is the medical director of this practice is now losing his license in 17 states out of 40. So, what does our policy cover? Traditional professional liability insurance policy, just with the advantage that the non-FDA approved procedures that a lot of you guys are doing in your practice are covered underneath that. We don't have a whole lot of limitations on our policy. More often than not, it's kind of funny when you come up, when we talked to a few of you earlier, it's better for you guys just to ask, what would you like to do? And I can tell you point blank if it's covered or not. And if there's something that I've not heard of, just put it in writing to me and we can always send it to the underwriter and get it approved. That's not a big deal whatsoever. Very rarely do we say no. If you are an owner of a practice and you intend on running your practice for more than 5 years, a claims-made policy is the way to go. An occurrence policy is fantastic for individual year-by-year contract work. So if you're just a contract player and you're bouncing from one job to the next, and they require you to buy tail coverage when you leave, an occurrence policy is perfect because that 12-month time period on that policy is covered indefinitely. The price difference between an occurrence and a claims-made policy is usually 2 times. So, you can cut your cost by 50% if you just go to a claims-made policy. Cyber liability coverage. It's funny, we don't see it a whole lot as far as a need on individual offices. However, I've had a few times that it has. But it's really come to focus for me, actually. A good buddy of mine just had this happen to him. His business, as far as revenue-wise, they do I'd say about $25 million a year in rev. And they got about 35 employees. One of the employees actually opened up a phishing email, and a hacker group out of Ukraine took over their system. This happened it started in it was the first week of November of last year. And my buddy was just adamant. He goes, I'm not paying those bastards. I'm not doing it. They wanted a ton of money. I think it was $250,000 they wanted in Bitcoin. And he's like, I'm not doing it. So he's trying like all get out to rebuild his systems and gather information from every place that he could to do it. Ultimately, after 6 weeks, he had to pay the ransom to get back into his system. When he did, all of his financials were gone. I mean, everything that he had in there, completely gone. He had to rebuild all of it. And he's currently still in the process of doing so. So the reason why I say that is he did have a cyber liability policy, even though he was being obstinate. I don't understand why, because they would have paid that ransom. And they did ultimately pay that ransom. I mean, he paid it himself, but sent the bill to the insurance company, and they actually reimbursed him for that. They will also pay for, underneath the cyber liability coverage, to rebuild your records as well. The next coverage I would recommend for your practice is employment practice liability coverage. Why is this important? Well, I mean, that's just one dumb thing. I mean, I've seen a bazillion dumb things that have happened because why? People are people. And an employment practice liability insurance policy for your practice, if you have, any more than a couple of employees, is absolutely important. It's not going to cost that much money. Typically, if your practice, say, turning over $2.5 million a year, let's say you got five to 7 people, you might be paying $2,500 a year for that. That is well worth laying off the risk on somebody else. I mean, these things happen on a regular basis, and it's something to be aware of. because people do dumb things, unfortunately. And now there have been instances that I have, that have been covered under EPI policies that were intentional acts as well. And also too, it does cover for wrongful termination suits. So if you fire somebody and you're worried about them suing them, this is the policy covered for that as well. Telehealth coverage underneath our main professional liability policy, not a problem as far as doing so. It just, there's multiple states that, we operate in, so that's not an issue as far as covering across state lines. I want to also point out too that our policy, if you wanted to say go and do some work in Dubai, or you wanted to do some work in the south of France, or whatever, we've been asked this multiple times. The coverages would extend to that work that you're doing outside the United States as well, just as long as the claim is filed in the territorial United States. GLP-1s, getting back to this, we do cover them underneath our policy. That's not an issue as far as you prescribing them. Again, I would highly suggest that as far as the, if you're trying to get the patients covered under the health insurance, watch out. They are looking at this stuff, both CMS and the health insurance companies, as far as claiming people that have diabetes that do not. Again, we cover everything under our policy. There's not much that we don't. Hormone therapy, ozone, hyperbaric, any kind of human tissue products, 351, 361 products. We cover the weird stuff is what we say. Again, anything that's avant-garde, we like it. The claims activity is low. Case in point, underneath our program, if we were running it specifically for family and general practitioners, or say internal medicine physicians doing traditional medicine here in the United States, I would expect to lose 90 cents for every dollar we took in. In regards to our program, our loss ratio typically hovers between 37% and 41%. It just varies from year to year. The reason why the lawsuit activity is so low with that I feel with the integrated and wellness practices and the safety of them is because there's a much more positive outcome for the patient on a regular basis because, hey, guess what? What you actually do works. And that's the thing is like, I'm a statistics wonk. I'm a numbers guy. And quite honestly, the numbers just spell it out, period, that statistically speaking, this is one of the safest areas of medicine in the United States. And again, too, for us, we've been able to keep our rates pretty low with our program. When a lot of other companies have had to raise rates and all that kind of good stuff like that, it's because this area of medicine does not generate claims activity. Yes, we've had a couple of claims infections at injection sites, which is, standard when you're doing any kind of trigger point injection. And that can happen. That's a known complication. Again, we've had a few cases. What we see more often than not is actually refund cases where it didn't work for a patient. Say they signed up and did, say, a $20,000 program or a $40,000 program, depending on whatever you guys sell it for. And, much like a plastic surgeon, there's buyer remorse, right? Somebody had a facelift and they look in the mirror like, well, I don't look the way I should, right? Maybe the stem cell treatment didn't exactly go exactly what they thought it was going to be, so they're demanding a refund. And more often than not, it's kind of funny, it always comes from the family of the patients, not from the patient themselves. That's the kind of stuff we see. The one big thing is the license defense. The Board of Medicine, a lot of the different state Board of Medicine has been very active as far as going after clinics, especially chiropractor mixed practices. We see that more often than not, unfortunately. So that's where primarily as far as the claims activity that we see out of the program is not a professional, like an actual patient treatment driven thing. It's more of a complaint. So it's a cautionary tale. Again, I know I give old school safety briefings, but to be perfectly honest with you, that's something just to be aware of. If you are a medical director, remember you are the captain of the ship and you are ultimately responsible. So just be aware on that.